Hello, hello, hello. This is a video for my mother and for her birthday, and it's a very late video. And I'm gonna say a couple of things in German and then I will speak in English afterwards and make a longer video and talk about a bunch of stuff that goes through my mind. So, erstmal, hallo liebe Mami, es klingt so künstlich, aber kommt von Herzen, es kommt wirklich von Herzen. Happy Birthday, liebe Mami, ich denke an dich immerzu, okay? Und ich hoffe, es geht dir gut, ich hoffe, dass alles gut läuft, ich hoffe, dass ihr liebe Pflegepersonalleute habt und dass die lieb mit euch umgehen und dass die nett sind, dass ihr mit denen auch gut kommunizieren könnt. Und Fabian hat mir ja schon was davon erzählt, dass die erste das ging nicht und jetzt habt ihr aber noch eine andere und ich hoffe, das geht gut. Ich muss mal aus der Sonne raus. Mein Baby rennt immerzu hin und her, weil er die Hunde vom Nachbarn durch den Zaun sieht. Und der spielt mit denen und er würde auch ganz liebevoll mit denen spielen. 2 Cocker Spaniels. So. Und hier ist der Rhododendron. Den zeige ich mal eben. Rhododendron mit lilafarbenen Blumen. Wunderschön. Und der blaue Gott beschützt uns alle vor allem. Und es ist schön hier draußen. Es ist immer schön, im Garten zu sein. Mein Pullover hat etwas Probleme mit es ist ein bisschen ausgeleiert hier, also das Material, deswegen tue ich meinen Schal drüber. Es gehen so viele Dinge durch meinen Kopf, ich weiß gar nicht, wo ich mit anfangen soll. Wir waren jetzt auf der Reise, wir waren in der High Desert und wie immer auf unseren Reisen, es hat Yin and Yang, Plus und Minus. I guess I'm gonna describe this in English now because I'm better at describing these things in English than in German now. So I have gone over that threshold of language. So German used to be my number one language. Now it's English. So yes, it is what it is. When you live in a country longer than in your birth country, then you're going to be adapting that language naturally, because you're constantly dealing with that other language and with the other words, with the vocabulary and all of that. So there is my sunbathing place. And it is beautiful. It's very, very nice. So we went to the desert and it was extremely difficult because we have a very narrow van. And this narrow van is, whether we have a dog or not, actually he is the right size. So the papa dog was already too large for that camp cot that we have in the van where Paul sleeps on it. So the papa dog had to sleep on Paul's foot end, and then he had to put his legs over the papa dog. But the papa dog was taking up way more space than he does. So he's quite a bit smaller than the papa was. So, and that works better with him on the camp cot, but it was still uncomfortable, and I can see that it was still uncomfortable for him, and having to share that space with Paul's legs. And then there was only like, I mean, just a little over a foot, maybe 15 inches in width next to the camp cot, where I could sleep on some cushions. And I have wide shoulders, so I think my shoulder is more than 15 inches. And so I was really cramped in there. And the legs of the camp cot were pressing into my shoulder, into my muscles. And the wheel casing of the van is ice cold at night. And it radiates out coldness onto the hips and the body and the shoulders, and so if you're exposed to that for a long time, that can be very problematic. So I learned already from all of these mistakes in the past. I put a bathroom rug with a rubber bottom. I doubled it up. I put that over the wheel casing in order to prevent that coldness from radiating out against my hips. So, but it was still really, really rough. So every night, every evening and every night, I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. And it was difficult. We argued, and then I felt like, I always felt. When I suffer, I feel like my ego wants to blame it on someone else. That happens automatically. I have to observe myself. Then I have to go into my own mind. I have to do the inwardness meditation process, and I have to realize it's not Paul's fault. I want to blame everything on him or whatever people blame it. People blame it on the government. I blame it on the corporate agenda. Like everything I blame the corporate agenda for. But then I have to realize, no, it's not just the corporate agenda. Okay, existence is a soul school. And the haters and the corporatists and all of those people, the jihadists and the women haters and the dog haters and the animal butchers and all of these individuals in the world, the ones who exploit animals and the environment, this is all part of that soul school. And it's very unfortunate, to say the least. Sometimes I have some pretty violent thoughts in my head. So, and I don't want that. I don't want to have violent thoughts. I would much rather have peaceful thoughts. But that's, of course, I'm not going to blame myself for that. Of course, this is all a reaction to the stuff that I expose myself to when I do animal rights activism. I come across all of these things, all of these stories, and they are heartbreaking, to say the least. Okay, they are nerve-breaking. They have already caused me nervous breakdowns. So I do that anyway, even though I'm way too sensitive for it. I'm doing it anyway because I have to. I have no other choice. I have to do it. I can look the other way. I can blindfold myself, and I can block Paul. I can block all of these groups and stuff. But then I'm not taking responsibility. I'm not a good Earthian, responsible Earthian who steps up and who speaks out, who says something, who discusses these things, who brings these things to the public, who shares this kind of stuff on social media all the time, signing the petitions, we have to do it, If everyone has that attitude and says, no, I'm too sensitive, that's a wonderful excuse. For me, it's not an excuse. I am absolutely too sensitive for all of this, but I have to do it. And then the people who are not too sensitive for that, they don't care. They don't sign it because they don't care, because they're not sensitive. See, so I actually thought about all of this, and I thought, would I want to trade places with someone who's not sensitive? My answer is, I don't have to think about this at all. My answer is absolutely no. I would never, ever give up my compassion and my empathy for other living beings. I would never do this. I'm grateful that I have this empathy. I'm grateful that I care. And it's rough though. It's a rough existence. Very, 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 very difficult. But this is my soul school, okay? I'm learning and healing and growing my way through and forward. That's what I'm doing. Thank you, Blue God. 1133. The Blue God says, I am protecting all of you, all of you, all of you. All. I'm protecting you. And you are going through that, what you are set out to do in this school of life. Okay, so, and we have to really, really do that inwardness process and contemplate and meditate and look into ourselves and listen to our bodies and listen to our minds and listen to the bodies of other living beings and quiet the mind down, quiet all of that monkey talk down, quiet all of these thoughts, the fears of social, the fear that society could disapprove of us if we don't conform with them. So that has to be quieted down. The whole thing has to be quieted down. So I'm always making all of my videos for everyone, because my message is universal. It's for everyone, of course. We have to quiet down our minds. Okay, I'm listening to Jiddu Krishnamurti every day, and he's saving my life. And with David Bohm, discussions, they are absolutely life-saving. They are mind-saving. They are pure meditation. That's what they are. And I highly recommend to people to just sit there, watch these videos, quiet your mind, listen to them very intently. Don't run away with the judgment of David Bohm's glasses or his early 70s clothing style and hairdo and glass style and so on. Or David Schoenberg's glasses and hairdo, and I see what people do, when they comment underneath. They're very quick to pick up on how these people look, or maybe the kind of words they use, that some of those words are already outdated today. So, because those videos are from the early to mid 70s, even earlier videos of them, even in the 60s. I don't know when they started to record. Jiddu Krishnamurti, I think it started in the 50s. the recordings, and then it went up to until his death in 1986. I think that was 1986. Yeah, he was quite old. So he was born in 1895. 1895. So he got quite old. And the same soul as Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. And that soul intermittently comes back just to teach and also to grow, because the infinite cosmos is in a perpetual growing movement, perpetually growing. Okay, so, and that's not an individual soul in that sense like we have. That's the infinite cosmos. I mean, that's why there is such condensed information coming out of these individual incarnations, condensed and completely focused. There's nothing else that the self is not there. There's no ego, no self. This is a complete focused life with the only focus point of helping and educating and making things better. Serving as a messenger to get awareness, to bring awareness into people's minds. Okay, and they are helping me. I'm an indigo soul. They're helping me a lot, and I know they have helped other people, a lot of other people. They have also helped beginner souls who have listened to him, which most of those are from India, of course, because then they will cling to him as a guru, but that's not what he wanted. So that's not, he would always get mad at people if they would address him as Krishna Ji, or which they called him, which is the ending. Krishna Ji. Ji is the teacher, the higher teacher. They called him the Maitreya, of course. And he is. But people run off with this and they all say, this is my God, I'm gonna leave it all up to him, like my higher father, and make him then responsible for everything that's happening in my life. And I don't have to learn or take responsibility, because the ego does not want to take responsibility. The ego would rather worship a guru, and that's exactly what he was teaching not to do. Okay, so he would always remind people that he's just a messenger. He's like a phone, a telephone, he would say. So he's just some kind of conduit of information to bring to people, and he said he does not want people to look at him and his appearance and his appeal and his persona, because it's not about his persona. That's what he said. And a message is universal. A message is never about a specific persona, the particular speaker, as he called himself. The speaker, he's just a speaker. He would also refer to him in third person. He'd say, he, the speaker. When he talks about his childhood, he says, he, that boy, he would say. He's been through a lot in his life. Very hellish. The infinite cosmos takes on enormous incarnations. Enormous. Hanging on by a thread as a child, rescued by Annie Besant. Unbelievable. An unbelievable beacon of light that he was, that he is, always will be. And he doesn't want this to be religious. Okay, He wants this. I see him as my teacher, of course. I see him as my father. I see him as together forever, okay, as I painted it out in my painting from a few years back. We will always be together, okay, no matter what the transitional moment is. Okay. At the parking lot, at the veterinarian. That was another harsh one of his existences. And I miss him infinitely much. He saved my life many times. And then we got the papa, and the papa is David, the writer. And he didn't stay very long, barely 3 years. And now we got him. A Staffordshire Bulldog mix. Yes. A beautiful, beautiful baby dog, as we call him. He's our baby dog. Yes, and was rough in the desert. You know, there were these little, like, I don't know, the tip of my little finger, like this round little cacti, like sea urchins, growing out of the ground. And sometimes I've already fought with those myself, but it is particularly hard on dogs. So particularly hard on baby dogs with tender baby dog feet. You know, he's very young, he's like 2 years old. So, and he constantly got those embedded into the callus under his paws. And we had to pull these thorns out and these sea urchin things, and it was very difficult even to find those. You know. Sometimes there would only be one of these tiny little thorns left in the foot, and I couldn't feel this. And for some reason Paul has more experience with this, because he has already been in the desert a lot before I met him with his dogs and with his Doberman dogs, and also with Ludwig and Samantha. And then later on when I met him and Ludwig and Samantha, then this happened again to girl. I call her girl Samantha, and she stepped into a larger cactus and had some really serious needles in her foot, and we both worked tirelessly to pull all of these individual needles out, and you have to do that. Okay, so I don't recommend to take dogs into the desert unless you know exactly where you're going, and if you go to a place where there are paved roads or at least gravel roads. So we looked at a couple of properties. There was one I really liked that has a warm spring on it, but too many of those cacti, and the baby dog did not like this at all, and he was afraid to even make one step forward because of all of these cacti. So then I said, the baby dog doesn't like it, we can't buy it. But there's another property that has green grass, very high water table, and I noticed that when we get to lower elevation, more back towards the ocean, like somewhere in the middle, when the soil is more moist, people traveling all over the place bring these cacti under their shoes with them. That's also how they proliferate, of course, that's evolution. And then they end up in different places, camping spots and so on, where these cacti normally don't grow. Like in juniper areas, they don't grow there. But they do grow because people bring them over all the time, and then they grow, but for some reason, for some real evolutionary reason, of course, the soil is more moist and it rains more in the juniper area. That's why they're growing juniper trees, lots of them. And I picked some up to bring with us, and I already made tea with it, which is very, very healing. And by the way, I cured Ludwig's pneumonia with juniper berries from Zion National Forest. So when we were on our so-called honeymoon trip, so we got married in Vegas in February 2001, and that was, we went with the Dolphin motorhome, like one of our old motorhomes from the past, with Ludwig and Samantha through the desert, through the low desert, Death Valley, Nevada, Vegas, Imperial County, all of those, Henderson. So that was quite nice. Went to Zion, went to Arizona, we went to the Petrified Forest. We made some interesting trips. So, but Ludwig had this permanent pneumonia because that was a long story, because Paul was ignorant and he had him in the back of a pickup truck long before he met me, and I got mad at him and I said, you can never do this, you can never put a dog in the back of a pickup truck, they get cold. And that's what happened, and then he got this permanent pneumonia in the lungs. He was coughing and he had a hard time with that. So I picked up these, they were completely ripe at that time, the juniper berries, big ripe juniper berries. They're very hard actually. They're very, very bitter. Not really berries you can eat, but you can make tea with those. And they're extremely healing for the entire respiratory system, the lungs, everything. And very good when people have a flu or virus or something. Very, very, they're very antiviral, antimicrobial, so antipathogenics in general. Very, very healing. And it cured Ludwig's pneumonia for good. There was a large bird came flying right over us. And earlier today I heard geese, a flock of geese flying over us. They always go back and forth. They go into Grants Pass at Klamath Falls. There's a big lake there. And they always migrate back and forth. And they come through here. They come to the bird sanctuary where Paul and I helped for 8 months to protect the bird sanctuary locally. That was also very interesting work and dangerous and nerve-wracking. So, but we had to do it. It was important that we did that work. So, yeah, juniper, they're very, very healing. And these cacti, when they grow under those juniper trees on the ground, I touched them because I wanted to see. They looked so much greener than out there in the desert, in the high desert. So in the high desert, they look brittle and kind of like my hair, the same color. Brittle like my hair also, kind of. And then the needles were very, very, very pointy and very, very sharp. So under the juniper trees, I touched those and they felt soft, kind of. Still kind of spiky and stuff, but the spikes were soft and like baby green, so, and kind of rubbery, so they didn't spike into the skin and they didn't get lodged into the dog's paws either. So the same plant but in a different environment, they don't become aggressive, if we want to use that word. Those are passive, of course, but the spikes, I call the spikes kind of aggressive because they're very, very sharp needles, and it's very interesting that they stay soft balls in the juniper area. So it's very cute. I'm sure they don't even grow here in this region, in the coastal region. I don't think they grow here at all because it rains very much here, and they just get drowned out. They like it. They like to have an arid climate where there are long periods of drought and stuff like this. So they actually like that. So that's one of the drawbacks in the desert, and of course extreme climate. So it can get extremely hot, like 120 degrees. It can get like this. But in the higher elevations, they're like, 5,000 feet. In the summertime, it can doesn't get hotter than 90 degrees, but it can also get very hot. Maybe in some places, depends. And then in the winter time, it gets extremely cold. So that's why it's important to get a commercial greenhouse for heat retention and natural sunlight to come in and grow your own food. So that's what we're planning on doing. We want to grow all of our own food because there are harsh times that are coming, very harsh times. Okay. It's gonna get so harsh that I don't even want to think about it. It's gonna get so rough in the big cities, in the congested, overpopulated big cities, and in the suburbial places, Santa Clarita, San Jose, all of those areas, all of these overpopulated areas, it's gonna get very, very rough. And I'm terrified for the animals and all innocent beings who are not prepared for this at all. Someone said that recently, because of global warming, it got to 125 degrees in British Columbia, Canada. And that's a coastal region, and that is in Canada, that's very far north. And these people, the whole community was not prepared for this. And there was one town that completely burned up because of that heat. And many people died. Many animals, I'm sure. They never report on the animals. So horrific. I think that was last summer. So horrific, what global warming is doing. And then also violent movements. The Black Lives Matter Antifa movement. Very, very violent people that are lighting forests on fire. Okay, people need to know this. They need to know that this is not okay at all. It's not okay. This is a crime on this planet. Okay, and all the innocent beings who depend on the forests. Very, very important to talk about this. So the sun is shining through the tree like this, but it's okay. So this is my English laurel. This brush was just about 4 feet high when we bought this house, and now it's like 30 feet high and really big. And I kept on trimming this. I haven't trimmed this in a while. I kept on trimming this in a cube, and then Paul unfortunately pruned out on the top some branches, and I fought with him. I didn't want him to do that. So, but he wanted to have the sunlight come through there, and I would rather have the English laurel. We need every plant. We need every tree to stand. Every tree. Keep every plant and every tree. We depend on these individuals. Okay, this is very, very important. We need to know that we depend on all of this. Okay, what the human species had done because of infrastructure, because of sewage facilities, they have caused soil depletion. Rudolf Steiner warned about this in the 1920s. Nobody listened to him. Very few people listened to him. Okay? And so now, 100 years later, more than 100 years later, that's the result, is soil depletion. 100 years of harvesting food and putting the sewage from the food that goes, the sewage that comes out of our body, putting that into sewage facilities where it is being treated, where it is whatever they do with it, they transform this, they filter it or something. They even put some dirty water from that into the ocean, which is really, really bad for the ocean. And then the result is they're not putting the nutrients back into the food fields. Okay? The nutrients there's no compost from that going back into the food fields, which created empty food. Okay? This empty food is actually dangerous. It actually draws more nutrients out of people's bodies, and then they wonder why they get obesity, because they keep on eating, because the body has not been fulfilled with nutrients. And I'm in the midst of this. I'm part of this. I'm overweight. I always feel like I need to eat more because the food that we eat doesn't have the nutrients anymore that it used to have, So that's why the people in Russia, where they had the Soviet Union, they did not do this soil depletion. They didn't do all of these. Most of those communities didn't do this. They still lived very naturally. And yeah, for some people it was probably very rough. But now we have more information. We don't have to live like in the 1800s or 1700s or 1600s anymore. Okay, we don't have to have outhouses. Okay, it's not necessary. So you can live in a large dome house or a large greenhouse, and you can have one section, one partition that has to have sunlight come in for grass growing. Okay, you have to have one partition that is inside of the building, okay, where you have large trash containers where you drill holes into it, okay, and you put all of your biowaste into it. Make sure that there is nothing else in it, okay, no trash in it that does not biodegrade. Okay, so you can even put cardboard into it. Some people put cardboard into it. I would not put cardboard into it. Paul brings that to the recycling facility, cardboard and paper scraps and stuff like this. Okay, sun is going into my eyes. So, but no, because cardboard is, I don't know if there are many nutrients in it. So, no, but all the biowaste, including all dung, goes into those outdoor composting containers, large compost containers. We have these there, as you can see, towards the back there. These are used for, those are used for retaining rainwater, but on the other side of the English Laura we have the composting bins. I'm not going to show this right now because it's kind of rough the way it looks. So, but it's not dirty, okay? There are no smells coming out of it, but some of these containers have been a little bit demolished because we turn them on the side, and it's kind of difficult to empty them because the stuff weighs a lot, And once it's fully decomposed by earthworms, we turn them over, and then we spread that stuff out over there in that corner, and then we can use that soil, that fertile soil, to fill in some potholes here on the lawn, and also sprinkle it under the trees and different areas to give nutrients to the plants. And you can't do that with the apple tree here because the apple tree is growing on the other side of the fence, and the apple tree is already getting apples now. Little apples, golf ball size, some of those already. So they're growing fast. And it's really nice. So this is like a full-time job. To be living full cycle green is a full-time job. And it's wonderful to do that. It's very fulfilling to live fully green, So in a full green life cycle where you live totally in tune with the earth, where you eat the food, you grow, you put the dung back into compost containers, the earthworm, and the other animals, they recycle that into fertile earth soil. You turn it over, you bring it back into your Garden of Eden, and that gives all those plants all the nutrients they need. They're going to be happy, they're going to be growing fast and abundant. And it's wonderful, and that's how the whole planet, that's how everyone should be living, okay? To make this planet into a paradise. So, but most people don't listen, okay? They just don't listen. Their egos like that, what they have learned, they have identified. That's a very dangerous thing, when people identify themselves with that what their ancestors or their parents taught them, and they never question it. They identify themselves with it, because if they question it, then they would have to also question themselves, and most people don't want to question themselves. When they identify with something and they start questioning that, then of course they have to question it themselves, and they should. I question myself all the time. We should question ourselves, and we should also allow ourselves to cry. I think it's very, very healing to cry, and very, very, in a very humble way. Cry in a humble way. That's really, really. Sometimes we can be angry, but also be angry in a humble way, not be angry in a self-righteous way, not like, because that's an act out, like if I get angry in a self-righteous way and I blame other people, then I'm not taking responsibility for my life, okay? I have to take responsibility for my life. I don't have any other choice. So, and that crying has a totally different character. That crying of total humbleness. That can sound pretty pitiful, but that's what Arjanov calls the primal zone. That's what Esther Hicks calls the vortex. Other people have different names for this, okay? You can call it ground zero. You come back to the earth, get grounded psychologically. I get grounded psychologically and physically. Every day I ground myself on the grass. It's very important to get the grounding from the earth going through the body. It's very healing. And if everyone did this, the healthcare industry, they would go out of business. And that's why they are fighting natural living and all of this. They fight this tooth and nail. They slander that. They slander people they even murder people. I believe that Donna Pessin was murdered. I think Donna Pessin was a courageous, courageous woman. Okay, very, very courageous on the natural healing path. She wrote several books. very, very known in the natural healing circles, and so she became a threat to the corporate agenda, the pharma industry, the medical industry, and I believe that they murdered her, and I believe they murdered a lot of people if they think they can get away with it, if they think they can cover this up somehow. And they have their ways, you know. People are corrupt, they take bribe money, and they have a network of corruption because of that. A corruption ring, okay? A structure, a web of corruption. Because people are so corrupt, they will take bribe money and they will corrupt the entire structure of human communication and human networking, human cooperation and businesses and so on. And they will go against people who want to make the world a better place. They want to go against Donald Trump and Elon Musk because those people stand in the way of the corporate agenda. They don't want the corporate agenda. They don't want to corrupt things. Okay? They want to make the world better. And because of that, they get slandered all over the place. Okay? They get slandered with unbelievable false accusations and lies and smear campaigns and so on. It's very sad, all of this. Okay, so my appeal is question things, question basically everything you hear. Okay, question it all and find out for yourself what is true and what is false. Okay, I know one thing for sure. What is absolutely true is that we have to go back to a natural life cycle. We humans here on Earth, we have to. We have no other choice. Okay? So I'm ending the video. Love and peace for all living being. Love and peace for my mother and Fabi and my dad and everyone. And Barbara and Birgit out there in the Amazon rainforest as colorful large birds. And all of us, Klaus and Jürgen and all of these entities, you know, finding peace, you know, getting a new existence at some point, you know, coming back as birds or dogs or pigs, you know, and experiencing that life firsthand from their perspective. It's very important for us to do this. I'm going to come back as an albino male Great Dane in my next lifetime. Okay, you guys take care. Bye.